How you doing, everybody? It is time again on another Monday night for 3D Politics Live. I'm Tom McKay, your perspicuous host, here this evening with David Van from SoonerPolitics.org. I gotta say,
that's 5 syllables.
That's not bad, is
it?
Perspicuous. Look it up, kids.
Look it up, kids.
The big news of the day, of course, and we got a lot of stuff to talk about, 4 or 5 different things, but the big news of the day was celebrity David Van appeared on. No, this is big. When you're podcasting like we are, it's big when you're on the blowtorch of KFAQ 1170 with Pat Campbell. A great show. I listened to the whole thing. You sounded great. Pat, it was great to have you on. A great show.
Pat's good. You know, he's really the top talk show host in Oklahoma now.
Well, I wish he would take more calls. There were more callers, but I gotta say, just ran you all over the court with 1,000. I thought it was great. He really covered a lot of topics.
Keep up with him. You got a curtain that's getting tugged around.
What am I doing here? Oh,
there
sorry.
You go.
All right. Quit swinging around. Oh, hey, look at there.
We're dancing with the curtains tonight. But yeah, it was a great show. You know, Pat had just a lot of things going on. We had a good talk about, the issues we covered. You'll find on SoonerPolitics.org. It's headlining today, and or on KFAQ. Pat's one of our blogging partners, so we carry his podcast.
You got into some of the issues with Stitt and the casinos, which I thought was you really. And this is one of the things I love that Pat's been doing, is really digging into drilling down on the facts about the casino issues.
Yes.
And regardless of which side he's on, and whether you agree with it or not, he's pulling out the issues. I find that, just to touch on that a little bit, because the part that frosted me or hooked me, the idea, and this is the part I understand, they say that the nations are a sovereign nation, but they're also Oklahoma citizens. And so, therefore, in that bubble is the way we should calculate it, not allowing other outside entities to bring casinos in. But the outside entities are also sovereign states that are also American citizens. So, again, it's a circular argument to me somehow.
But I'm more concerned about the rest of us Oklahomans who are being locked out right now by an act of our own legislature. They sold us out for what was called an exclusivity fee, and the tribes were just glad to pay it. Don't want to see this setup go away. They like the fact that they're the only ones getting to play this game.
It's a sticky situation. I think it's right that it needs to go, and I guess it's right to go slowly arbitration and then through the courts, but it's going to take a while.
I don't think anybody's happy with where we're at right now.
But anyway, I thought it was great that you were invited to be on. I thought you did a great job on the show, and that's the premier place to be here for politics in Oklahoma.
It really is. Oklahoma City has really crashed and burned as far as having good talk radio.
Right.
And so Tulsa's carrying the flag right now, and Pat Campbell's the best we've got.
Right. I used to compete with Mary Alice to be their number one caller, but since I promoted myself to former mayoral candidate, I just can't call anymore. I'm too far gone. We got 4 or 5 stories. The state education department fines epic, $500,000 or more. We're going to talk about that. There's sanctuary cities for the Second Amendment right here in Oklahoma.
Absolutely.
It's exciting. They're standing up for that. Also, we're going to talk about, where is Oldham? Well, Oldham is on assignment, and he is.
This is going to be good, folks.
This is a spy kid, that Oldham.
Yes.
And then also update from the Virginia assaults, the weapon ban assault in Virginia.
Yes.
So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Just in general, though, did you see the Daytona 500? Did you?
No, I did not.
They go 500 miles. Did you know that?
Yes.
That's what they do. That's why they call it that.
How ironic. It's in the title,
Well, it's 200 laps. You think, why don't they just even it out and make it be 500 laps, But apparently there's a length to the lap.
And I tell you, I've been out there a couple of times. It was not racing time of the year. It was like late July, hot as could be. And had the kids in the car, and we were, heading back to the beach. And I said, let's go by the Daytona 500. Yeah, That's a long track.
It's amazing.
Monster.
It's a thing.
It's a monster.
Yeah. Now I've never been, but I did love what Trump said, and I thought it was great that he went and did the little, television.
Yeah,
stunt.
tell us what he did.
Well, a lot of people missed it, but they took what they call the Beast, a 22,000-pound presidential limo, and took it around the lap for the pace cars.
Nice.
Very impressive.
No, not during the start of the race.
They didn't actually race. No, they. Yeah, that was before the race. Yeah,
was it the actual pace car?
It was basically, I don't know technically if that's what they call it. I don't know if technically it got up to speed to be called because you have to hit 70 miles an hour for those cars to hit the bank. So I don't know if technically it's called the pace car, but he did.
Okay.
He did go in front of the vehicles before the race, before the green flag.
With the vehicles following him?
Yes, just like the start of the race.
Holy smokes! Now listen. I've driven in the Secret Service motorcade.
Really?
I've been a driver.
Wow.
And they would not let me between the candidate or be up next to the candidate.
Right.
They had one of their own guys in an SUV with shaded windows. It was a tripod-mounted machine gun in there, too.
Wow.
I'm telling you, I
want one of those.
But yeah, they are pretty sticky about this. And I had to drive the candidates' kids, campaign manager, press secretary, and everything, because Secret Service provides for the candidate and whoever else can fit in that vehicle. Anybody else has to go to another vehicle, and I was chosen to be a driver. This was the Rick Santorum campaign.
Pretty good. Yeah, that's impressive. No wonder Pat Campbell invited you.
It's just one of the things that I've done a few things in my life.
Here, yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, they, and I was given 2 bits of advice. One, keep up with the car in front of you. And we flew, man. It was so cool.
Yeah.
Because I was doing 70 going down the Mingo Valley Expressway, and they were on the phone saying, faster, faster. Yes. And, but they said, stay up with us, but don't hit us.
Well, and when you say, was it the pace car, those Daytona race fans are pretty sticky.
Yeah.
I don't know if technically the racers called that the actual, there might have, I don't know the rules of Daytona.
My guess is Trump led the first lap with the pace car behind him. Then Trump backed out, and the pace car picked it up.
I don't believe that his limo could get going fast enough to be the official pace car.
I don't think they want the President of the United States flying that fast.
Dude, when you're doing 100 miles an hour in a 22,000-pound vehicle, that's dangerous.
I want to know who's the Secret Service agent who got to drive in the Daytona 500. That would be one that the rest of the guys at the Secret Service can do.
So I noticed that he and Melania stood next to each other but didn't hold hands. And I'm just waiting for those on the left to pounce on the body language. Apparently they're probably about to break up because they didn't hold hands, David, and that's a thing. But I did like when Trump talked about, the gal kind of put him on the spot when they interviewed him. What do you like about it? If you're such a fan of Daytona, Mr. President, you're like, what's your favorite song routine? Well, what do you like about it? Well, he mentioned the amazing technology that is involved in these vehicles.
Yes.
And the amazing courage that these guys have. Yes, he says they have the safety harnesses. In fact, much of the safety that we have in our vehicles today is due to the fact of these guys that are learning how to use safety, and we learn about the physics. And these guys go 200 miles an hour, bumper to bumper. It's an adrenaline. I wish I could do it just to go out there and drive that fast.
Yeah.
It would be great fun. But I loved what Trump said about the Daytona, about what the honor that he brought there.
I sometimes think there's a fine line between courage and stupidity.
Oh, they live right next to it. Bravery and stupidity live right next door to each other. I mean, what act of bravery is not considered stupid by a weaker man?
Yeah.
By a weaker man.
Yeah.
Also, Bloomberg. He's just. Have you seen any of these ads?
No, I've heard what he said about farmers.
How have you missed these ads? They're everywhere.
Well, I'm not sure which ads you're talking about.
All of them.
Okay.
They're just everywhere.
I've seen tons of them, especially the ones that starts out with Obama praising Bloomberg. He wants you to think that Obama's already endorsed him.
That's the way it opens, as though it's like with an Obama endorsement. No doubt about it.
Yeah, but no, I just heard what he did overnight about the farmers. Oh my God, he stepped in it.
Well, yeah, he says this. So it's called agricultural sciences. It's not just you don't just stuff. In fact, I think it was. He said corn too. Did you notice that?
Mm-hmm.
You just put in a seed, you water it, and up comes corn, which
Wow.
of course is my people's vegetable. We call it maize, of course. He doesn't know that. And in fact, the Pilgrims didn't even know how to plant stuff till they learned from the Indians.
Wow.
Got to put a fish in there, David, or it won't work.
That's what my second grade teacher says, so it has to be true.
That's right. Sequoia taught us everything.
Yes.
But anyway, this Bloomberg guy, one of the things I can't stand is he just tweets all the time.
Oh.
Tweet all the time. And he's rude to his opponents when he tweets. I mean, haven't you had enough of that? Tweet. Bloomberg all day long. Tweet this and tweet that. And he's rude when he says.
And I'm waiting for the people on the left to say that's unpresidential.
I can't believe everybody at OSU, that is the Aggies, that's the agricultural school in Oklahoma,
Yep.
totally insulted by this guy that says, oh, you just pour what? These farmers do they don't do crop testing anymore. It's all their fertilizing is done by GPS because they can calculate the density of the crop and they don't just spread fertilizer everywhere. It's a science. They figure out how much fertilizer. Also, fertilizer is chemistry. So they're chemists, they're scientists. They know where the mass of the vegetation is. They know what percentage of what chemicals to make stuff grow. It's an amazing blunder from a guy who probably has his tea handed to him. I mean, it's amazing blunder.
There's just so many things. You've got to be studying all winter long. You're looking at which seed hybrids are coming on the market that weren't here last year. Then you got to, okay, how do I handle watering for this hybrid? That's a new hybrid that I didn't have last year, and what are the pesticides that I'm going to have to deal with? And that's so they're constantly learning.
Speaking of hybrids, I mean, all these marijuana growers, tell them it's easy just to grow. Tell them.
Yeah.
So anyway, State Education Department fines Epic.
Yep.
$530,000. Yep. And you want to know why? Because they the penalty in amount of $530,000 is because they were in excess of the 5% limit of the amount that they're allowed for expenditures. Yeah. They were over by 5.58%. That is less than 2/3 of 1%, and they're being fined. Now, it is amazing how nasty the OEA is.
Oh, yeah, but they really actually weren't over. This was
right.
A clerical
I'm
error.
trying to get to. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
In fact, they were going by the coding instructions. It's a coding for the state. You have to code like insurance, and essentially, Epic Superintendent Bart Banfield was notified of the penalty on January 23rd in an email. From the State Department of Education. This is from a story, the Oklahoman by Nuria Martinez Keel. And it is a clerical error, but the thing that bothers me about this is how nasty. The reason I found out about this is the OEA has a dark cabbage group. The NEA is a dark cabbage group for Fight for Funding. You ever seen Fight for Funding? It's a Twitter feed. But the dark cabbage group that feeds the need of Fight for Funding is the NEA. Okay. And the NEA is one of the nastiest groups you've ever met. Yeah. They claim to be out to teach the children, but if you try to help them by creating a thing like Epic to teach the children, they'll gig you and punish you for a clerical error, almost like a process crime.
Right.
Okay. For $500,000 for being less than 1% off. Now remember, the public education in Oklahoma alone receives a $2.5 billion government subsidized budget every 365 days. $2.5 billion pours into education every 300 days. And they're worried about a 5A mistake.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
And again, Epic did not exceed the caps. What they've got 2 different charter schools. They've got their online virtual where the kids learn at home, and then they started this blended learning where you go into the academy a couple days a week and then you do more time at home. But, and some do actually more than that. And that's actually sponsored by Rose State College, which is one of our state colleges. Right. And because they have 2 of them, they reported all of one expense on the Epic virtual school instead of putting part of it on the Rose State Blended Learning Center. And so they said, look, okay, let's just move this over there and everything's good. Oh, no. She will not. Yeah, Joy Hofmeister says, no, you're going to pay us.
Right. However, it says from the story, State School Superintendent Joy Hofmeister said, no option for you for a waiver on appeal. Neither Epic one-on-one nor Epic blended, which is what you were just talking about, has been penalized for exceeding administrative cost limits before. Epic admit this is a quote from Epic administration serves both charters, so we don't understand the agency's direction. This is again from Bart Banfield, I believe. It's also confusing to us, that is Epic, because the agency, the schools, the public school agencies, has allocated administration appropriately between the 2 charters in annual school personnel reporting. Amid this confusion, we are exploring options with the likely including applying for statutory waiver, which we just said they won't let them do. So they've obviously, it's not like they were recalcitrant in their effort to try. They're clearly trying to code it properly, truly trying to obey commands of the officer, doing everything they could to do what the state wanted them to do. But oh no, you're off by less than 1%. Yeah. And you, no soup for you.
Okay, so you've got over 30,000 students now in Epic. So all you families that are part of Epic, you need to know now, your state superintendent of public instruction, Joy Hofmeister, is at war against your school. She is trying to find every which way. She's not up for re-election anytime soon. You have 3 more years of these kinds of attacks by Joy Hofmeister. Be ready, circle the wagons.
Here is a private organization coming alongside the public schools, attempting to do what they claim. Yep. The NEA claims they're trying to teach children. There is also an epidemic of public school teachers having sex with their students, which we don't see that problem in Epic. Okay? What percentage of students do Epic teachers have sex with their students? Not. Okay, now, so they're off by a small percentage, and I'll just tell you here, performance over a 40-year trend. Remember how they used to calculate scores in school, the SAT? And they quit using that because the SAT over 40 years proved that all the money they were throwing in didn't ever work. Now, this is from the Cato Institution. Performance over a 40-year trend, 1972 to 2012, of increased spending at state and federal levels has shown 0 associated increase in SAT scores nationally. And I'll post this to the site. Okay? Also, in that period, during that period between 2004 and 2005, it was estimated to be $536 billion taxpayer investment in education, and that was a national figure that exceeded national defense. This idea that the public schools done, I can post all this later. And then, so they quit using the SAT after 40 years because the graph that I'll post on 3D Politics from the Cato organization showed the money going like this and the SATs staying flat. So they quit using the SAT and they moved to what? The ACT. And then 2012, when they quit using the SAT, they moved to the ACT. Now 2012 to 2016, English scores down, math scores down, reading scores down, science scores down, and that comes from the Oklahoma Regions for Higher Education 2016 annual report. That's the college, the condition of college and career readiness. Now, also, between 2012, 13, and 14, there is no improvement in student performance, and the following shows an increase in total Oklahoma State spending per pupil. That is 2012, $7,600. 2013, $7,700. 2014, $7,800. The cost per pupil each year going up. That's $7,829 in 2014 per pupil. And they claim they don't have enough money for books. Why don't you just buy everybody? Well, it's not that easy, Tom. Have you ever taught? Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Okay, Oklahoma public schools from fiscal year 16 to 17, teachers, certified, and support personnel received $26 million more in flexible benefit allowance. That's a 6% increase in benefits. That's from Docs Google. I'll put it up there. You see, America has this idea that we are investing in education, but the supporters of government school, they neglect to mention that public schools are a civil service. They're not a private corporation. Epic is a private corporation. Yes. We never can penalize the public schools, when they're off in their cafeteria account by 0.5%, right? If the school lunch program and that fraudulent system is off by 0.5%, we never press that. But if you're discussing private investment, which they always talk about, we have to invest in the schools, you have to invest in the children. Well, if you were investing in private investment according to profit and loss, then there would be a desire to impute the adjusted value according to a calculated formula for inflation. See, we're not calculating. They say we're spending $100 more per student, but we're not calculating the better education we're getting out of it. But Epic and in their private stuff, they are pressed against the use of a dollar to where it's tied to the market where inflation counts. Sure. See, inflation doesn't count against the public schools, but it counts against Epic. Am I right or wrong?
Oh, yeah. And on top of that, the Epic teachers are the highest paid teachers in the state. You know, Epic actually puts 80% of their funding into classroom instructions, whereas the public schools in Oklahoma is at 55% makes it to the classroom.
And the idea of investment, first of all our money, the investment happens when you have money. We're in debt as a nation. We don't as a state. We don't have money to invest, and when you invest in something, there should be a return. Education does not have an immediate return. This idea that every time you invest in a student, there's a guaranteed return, that's simply not true. You spend a lot of money, and there's at least a 2% dropout, and nobody ever talks about that. I want 2% of my tax money back. And they talk about if you've ever had a good plumber, then thank a school teacher. Well, have you ever had a bad plumber? Who do I complain to? So, the thing is, we drop $1 billion, $2.5 billion in Oklahoma alone on education, and they spend their money attacking Epic, who's trying to help the situation. Well, I thought that the NEA wanted to train children and teach children. And here comes Epic to try to help them. But no, actually, they want to force more of the mandatory government public schools where we don't want competition from other people trying to help the children. We'll do that for you. So that's a real problem.
And here's the long picture of it. What we could see happening in the school choice battle going on and a number of other things, we saw that we weren't getting anywhere getting open transfer to where kids could go, leave a failing school, go to another one.
Right.
But when I talked with the Epic people 3 years ago, and I saw what their numbers, they were increasing by a third every year, another third, another third. And I said, this is our flanking maneuver. Within 5 years, Epic will be the #1 school district in Oklahoma. Okay, I said that 3 years ago. They are now the #3, and they're very close to overtaking Tulsa, which is #2. And Epic, within a couple years, at the current rate, will be the biggest school district.
Right.
Now, that's going to make the entire system look like a total failure. When the best school, the growing school, the school that's doing better, is the one that's bucking the whole template. And
like Trump, fighting off people from who are supposedly on their side at the same time.
Yes, the Lincoln Boulevard swamp is what I call it over there in Oklahoma City. And so they are bringing out everything they've got because we are destroying their narrative of that the public school monster is somehow going to do good by our kids, and it's not.
Well, we've had 150 years to wait for that giant benefit, and all we've heard, especially from the left, is the society just keeps getting worse, and everything is just horrible. What's that over there? That looks interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to post this school information so you can argue with the stats. I'm not sure if it's going through on the post yet. I keep trying to post it. But anyway, enough about that school. Situation. Let's move on to the Second Amendment sanctuary cities in Oklahoma. How about that?
This has been awesome. It started Wednesday morning. Somebody posted up to me about the sheriff of Logan County. That's Guthrie. Guthrie's the historic original state capital of Oklahoma, about 30 minutes north of.
Is that this guy?
Current one. Yeah, Damon Devereaux. No, it's
this
actually,
is different. Okay.
Yeah. So Damon Devereaux, who's part of the Oklahoma Sheriff's Association, just said, guys, I'm not gonna. He's telling his district attorney, he's telling the attorney general, all of these so-called gun grab things that you see the bills in the legislature, for all this stuff, we're going to take away anything with, how many magazine, capacity and all that.
Right.
He's not going to do it. So then the next day, actually, that same morning, Marvin Goodman, one of the county commissioners, a friend of mine, he says, you know what, I'm putting this on the agenda for Friday morning at our county commission meeting. And so they had the sheriff speak, and then they voted. Marvin expanded on it, and all three of the county commissioners voted overwhelmingly, we're backing you up, Sheriff. No resources of this county are going to be used for unconstitutional gun grabs. That means anything that didn't first go through due process of law, as our Constitution requires. Nobody shall be deprived of life or liberty except by due process of law. So, in the meantime, Thursday, we had, Sheriff McKinney down there in Duncan, and we had, it just kept going and going and going. By Friday afternoon, Chris Wallace, I believe is Chris Morris from McAllister became, I think he was the 6th sheriff, and they all went off Damon Devereaux's proclamation.
Right.
But Chris added some really good words. And
so check this out. This is from Chris Morris, Pittsburgh County Sheriff.
This will be McAllister, which is really the old Democrat. This is Gene Stipe's old district. So you know where this is coming from.
And this is February 14th, 1:20 p.m. from Chris Morris on Facebook. I'm officially announcing today that I stand with other Oklahoma sheriffs and many across the county in support of the Second Amendment. Lower in the statement, he says, I believe that if every citizen who could legally carry a firearm would, not only would they and their families be safer, but our entire community would be safer as well. That's Chris Morris out of Pittsburgh County.
He says, guns makes a society safer. That's coming from the top law enforcement.
Notice how he says those who could legally carry a firearm. Right. That's the safety part.
Yes. Yeah. Now, I looked up in the Oklahoma Sheriff's Association. Most of these names that were in there, when I got my first bunch of 6, I posted up an article in Sooner Politics.
Right.
Most of those guys are not only members of the Oklahoma Sheriff's Association, but are board members. So then on Saturday, I called Harlan Moore. Harlan is he's a former Democrat up there in Delaware County. I met him the day he announced he's switching from the Democrat Party to the Republican Party. Okay. I was speaking up there at the Republican meeting, and I was tapped to officially welcome him in to the Republican Party.
Right.
And so I called him. I said, Harlan, I know you're the president of the Oklahoma Sheriff's Association. Now, you see what several of your colleagues have done. What is your position on this? He said, yeah. He says, I meant to issue that myself. I got busy, but first of next week, I'll be putting it out. So now you got the president of the Oklahoma Sheriff's Association officially coming on board. So we've got a snowball rolling down the hill.
That's excellent.
At a pretty good speed. So,
yeah, in fact, go ahead, because I want to read the counties when you're ready.
Yeah, go ahead. You're set up to go.
Well, this is excellent. This is typically when you hear a list of counties, it's because these counties are in danger due to a tornado alert. But these are the following counties where you're safe in a Second Amendment sanctuary city: Logan County, Stevens County, Canadian County, Haskell County, Bryan County, Pittsburgh County, LaFleur County, Cimarron County, Cole County, Cotton County, Kiowa County, Pushmataha County, and Latimer County. All 13 counties agreeing here with Chris Morris, also agreeing that they will oppose any and all infringements on the rights and liberties of law-abiding citizens.
And here's another exhibit 492 of why the Little Dixie, that was always considered the stalwart Democrat part of the state, was always going to be Democrat. They're the ones leading. If you look at this map, and we've got it up here on Sooner Politics and on 3D Politics, Jameson Fott's done a great job, Muskogee Political. Most of Little Dixie is colored in on that.
Okay.
So we're talking those which were just 5 years ago, we thought, oh, those are Democrat and always will be.
Explain to our young viewers who don't know what Little Dixie is. Where is Little Dixie?
Yeah.
Why do they call it that?
We kind of call it the Old South. We kind of, it's, mostly Choctaw territory. Not that that has anything to do with it, but that they're just always going to be Democrat. Keep in mind, they were very much part of the Confederacy.
Just traditionally, historically, that's what it's been.
Yeah. The principal chief of the Choctaws, Greenwood LaFleur, chose not to come to Oklahoma, but he remained the principal chief. The reason he didn't come from Greenwood, Mississippi, is because he was a senator in the Mississippi legislature and a close ally and good friend of another guy. His name was Jefferson Davis.
Oh, that guy.
Yes. So I'm telling you, LaFleur County, all of the Choctaw counties down there, Little Dixie, are very much part of the Confederacy. So they hate Republicans. For over 100 years, they hate Republicans,
Right.
until my friend Wes Watkins finally switched to the Republican Party. They love Wes so much, they sent him back to Congress as a Republican. So it's things are changing in Oklahoma.
Excuse me.
You bet.
That is great. I think this is the kind of action and the kind of behavior that Oldham has continued to ask for from our officials. That is, when they're asked to do something unconstitutional, make a statement. Say you're not going to do it.
Yep.
That's some good. So moving more out there, now where is Oldham?
Yeah.
He is in Hartford, Connecticut, and what is he fighting? Again, more vaccine stuff. So here it is. Big turnout expected at Connecticut hearing on vaccine exemption. So he is out there arguing in favor of freedom. Here's a pull quote from Democratic Governor Ned Lamont. Considering the infectious virus threatening our nation and state from overseas, he is pushing for a thoughtful vaccination program. However, the opponents argue that parents and guardians should be the ones to make such medical decisions for their kids. What do you know about what he's doing out there?
Yeah, you see what they're doing. Never let a good crisis go to waste. So what are the Democrats doing out there? Saying, we got all of these viruses from overseas coming, so we need to change our policy. First of all, we don't have a vaccine for the coronavirus.
Right.
Unless you're drinking Corona beer. Some say that.
It's another coronavirus.
So, they're just using scare tactics to take away rights of the people.
Every chance they can encroach a little bit and tighten the line between how much control they have over your kids and how much control you have.
Yeah, and there's no rational connection between this Chinese flu epidemic and the whole vaccine policy.
So Connecticut lawmakers are going to hear again from the public about the latest proposal, and that's why Oldham is out there.
They're hearing from the public.
To hear, he's going to let them know that they're not doing their job right.
Yeah.
So that's good news because
let's also say he was out there last month in New Jersey, and we had a massive victory. because it was all but a done deal until a bunch of mamas pushing strollers and daddies wearing snuggles. Oldham probably borrowed a snuggle or something. I don't know. No, I don't know. But his kids are grown. But yeah, he went out there and they were screaming so loud outside the Capitol that the Senate chamber couldn't get their work done.
Yeah.
They shut them down.
And apparently that's what it's going to take to fix a lot of this stuff.
So we sent Oldham back to the East Coast this week.
That's good. That's good. Because he's an expert in this area, and it's nice that people are tapping into his expertise. He knows how to write the stuff. He knows where the constitutional pitfalls are.
Yeah, and here's what's happening. These are longstanding Democrat states where a liberty movement, a Tea Party movement, is not a new thing.
Right.
But now all of a sudden you got people losing their liberties, and they're turning to some of the liberty-minded, Tea Party-minded people like David Oldham.
Right.
And he's out there. Last time he was out there, he was teaching people on certain things, and and leading in activism, and interacting with lawmakers. It was a good time.
The verbiage that is solid from the Constitution for 200 years, it takes a while before people learn to use that language properly. And Oldham's an expert in that. So we're about halfway through an exciting show tonight. 3D Politics. I got David Vann from SoonerPolitics.org. I feel great. It's like it's very excellent. Me and Pat Campbell interviewing the most important people in town right here. But anyway, it's an exciting night. We're going to be here every Monday night. Don't forget, 3D Politics has a special spin-off version Wednesday night, the 19th, 7 p.m. I get to interview Rex Lawhorn, the Libertarian candidate for governor in 2018. I've got some specific questions, and we've confirmed he's coming in Wednesday night. It's going to be great to have him straighten me out on how I'm wrong about these things. And if I can't agree, then I'll just have to know that I'm wrong about that. But I've got some particular questions about what I think are some incongruencies in the libertarian philosophies and political angles. So if you're into libertarianism, Wednesday night, right here at 3D Politics Live, 7 p.m., I'm going to be interviewing an expert in libertarian policies and asking all the tough questions. I want to thank Rex for coming out on Wednesday.
Yeah, he's driving into the studio.
That's nice of him to make himself available to a guy like me.
There you go.
Virginia lawmakers reject Northam's assault weapons ban. This is another big win. A bill backed by Governor Ralph Northam that would ban the sale of assault-style weapons in Virginia failed in committee, setting back one of the biggest priorities in the newly minted Democrat-controlled government in the state. So there they go. They got a Democrat-run legislator.
Yeah, and the word is, Oldham only announced yesterday he was going out there. And look at, they threw in the towel as soon as they found out Oldham's coming back. Now remember, 3 weeks ago, we had 22,000 gun-toting, freedom-loving, Second Amendment claiming patriots showed up there and swamped the whole place. Even had Alex Jones and his posse come out there with their big tank vehicle. And I mean, keep in mind, this is Democrat defections. These are Democrats that said, Northam, we ain't going with you on this. So it was good.
Yeah, this cheers erupted. This is from Julio Rosas. Cheers erupted when the Virginia Senate Judiciary Committee voted not to move forward on HB 961, the assaults weapon ban and magazine confiscation bill. They put the word confiscation in there. This is a red herring. But anyway, this is the one that they said we're not going to do it, and then they said they're just going to come back. I remember talking about this because they said we're going to push it till later, and they're going to come back and do it again. They're just saying they're not going to vote on it right now. Is that
not
correct?
this session.
Not
See,
this
the
session,
session's ending, and so they're going to wait until next calendar year session.
So this is just for the Second Amendment supporters in Virginia, a rebuilding year to get themselves ready to
absolutely
to vote some of those guys out. What else going on in the state? You got any updates from the court, anything like that?
Oh, geez. We've got this crazy thing going on with legislature. Oh, do you need any needles, any hypodermic
I'm
needles?
good on all my needles. Yeah, I get them. I get them pretty cheap.
Okay, well, the state wants the taxpayers to supply clean needles. Clean needles.
Yeah, what's that all about?
So that you can shoot up with fentanyl and heroin without getting hepatitis or AIDS from somebody else. So, no, I'm not kidding. There's actually two bills. Carol Bush in the House claims to be a Republican caucus member.
Right.
I'm waiting for her bills to show it. And then you got a Democrat, Kerry Hicks, in the Senate. And they're both bills basically say, look at all these people with hepatitis and AIDS. I guess AIDS is now a new epidemic. So, but they said, and it's because we don't have clean enough needles, so that we're just flowing with needles everywhere, so that everybody gets a one-time use clean needle every time they want to shoot up their heroin. Now, I went on Amazon and I just typed in, diabetic needle syringe. And I got lots of choices, and most of them said, 100 insulin needles for $8.99, $9.99, basically less than 10 cents a syringe.
Right.
And then I typed in and said, how much does a heroin addict eventually pay to keep up their addiction? And they said, gosh, it can run $3,000 a month just to keep you in heroin, just to keep you high, or and that. So they can afford $3,000 a month for their heroin, but they can't afford $8.99 for 100 needles.
Because the big money is not going to be saved by dropping the cost of needles by another penny. They've got them pretty well low.
Yeah. So my take on it is there are a few times when you've got the right-wing moralists, and the left-wing nanny state both advocating for the same thing.
Right.
And when they are, be very concerned.
Which is another, great system that we have, built-in bipartisanship and gridlock. Because whenever they get together, that's when we get tyrants.
Because now here's the reason they claim that we've got to set up this program. Because people are afraid of our drug paraphernalia laws, that some district attorney is going to put you in jail, not for the heroin or the fentanyl, but because of the needle.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're claiming that's why we got to pay for all these drug addicts to have lots of clean needles at our expense. So they kill themselves on fentanyl overdoses. And so they're saying that that it's because of district attorneys aggressively prosecuting this paraphernalia law.
We could just use. How about? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, all I'm saying is you've got a clean needle that you're going to put them in jail for. Why?
It's you supplied it too.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
Now, here's the other thing. As soon as you start subsidizing heroin addiction by providing clean needles, at some point, somebody's going to sue you because their kid's dead.
Well, you're picking winners and losers.
This is the insanity of our lawmakers. That they think these things are they think they're bright. And here's the thing, just get rid of the paraphernalia laws. Because I'm telling you, those diabetic needles, they don't kill diabetics, okay? They don't kill people with that need insulin, or people that are like, I used to give my wife her allergy shots. She had an allergist in Minnesota, and they sent us the stuff, and a local clinic taught me how to do it, and we gave her daily shots, to build up her immunity. So that was back in the 80s thing. But, so here's the thing. I had no problem going down to the drugstore and buying the insulin needles,
right?
The same ones we use. What's the deal here? Why don't we just get rid of the paraphernalia laws? Quit enforcing that, and just let these people just buy their needles on Amazon for $8.99 or down at Costco, CVS, wherever you buy, your medical supplies.
They're caught up in the litigious nature of the process crime. They're so worried about the process crime, they've forgotten about the end result of what we're trying to do here.
But here's the thing. These bills are not calling for the paraphernalia law. They're saying our needles will not be considered paraphernalia, but if you use one of another source, that's drug paraphernalia. Even though you're shooting up heroin with both of them.
You know, the colonists in the beginning weren't allowed to buy hats unless they were made in England, you know? So it's like, you know, that's not a hat until you say it's a hat.
Well, yeah, I'm just reading. This is the insanity. And this is passing committee right now, both House and Senate. These are companion bills.
If you're just tuning in or you're sticking with us, again, 3D Politics Live right here. I'm Tom E. McKay on Twitter, and I've got David Van, SoonerPolitics.org. You touched today when you were at Pat Gamble's show on the marijuana laws, and I had a question to follow up. Some people are refraining from getting a marijuana license because they don't want that to conflict with their gun ownership. What is the current on that?
Yeah. Almost, and I've tracked down each one of these people I've seen on Facebook that keeps coming into, you know, I've got a Facebook group with about 11,000 patients,
right,
who are all getting help from each other on, you know, treatments, what's best strains, best amount, you know, what's the best way to take it for whatever condition. But I get people come in there and they'll say this, and I track that person down, find out they were never a medical marijuana patient. They were just somebody who just a sore loser, 788 pass. They didn't want it. So what they want to do is convince you that you don't get to have a gun. And that's somehow a vicarious victory for them. So here's the deal. There is only one scenario where there's going to be any kind of a problem for someone like this. That is, if you've already gotten your medical marijuana card and started taking your medicine, and then you decide to go buy a gun, and you buy it from a federally licensed firearms dealer. You can buy from an individual. You don't have this questionnaire.
Okay.
Okay. Now, that federal firearms purchase form, the federal government's not regulating you. They're regulating that dealer.
Okay.
And they're telling that dealer he can't sell to you. If you are abusing a street drug, all right, well, it's a Schedule 1.
And this is on the thing
Schedule
when you buy a
1
firearm.
controlled substance. That's the only thing where you've got any kind of restriction. So I've been telling people, get your guns, then get your medicine, okay? If that's what your situation is. Now, having said that, having a medical marijuana card is not at all any evidence that you consume any marijuana. In fact, I know several people, I have actually consulted people. I said, you know what, hopefully CBD oil is going to do this and work for you.
Right.
But in the event it doesn't and things get worse, go ahead and get your card now because it takes a couple of weeks, sometimes 3 weeks.
You don't want to be waiting for your meds.
Right. Or somebody who's just diagnosed with cancer, they're going to start chemo next week. I say, go ahead and get your card now. Because if that chemo causes a severe nausea where you can't keep your food down, you're going to need something to fight off that nausea. Don't know that you're going to need it, but when you're nauseous and on chemo and you're wiped out, that's not the time to go running around to doctor's appointments anymore, and you already are.
Right.
So what I've been telling people, again, that card is in no way a claim that you're consuming any medicine that the federal government would have a problem with. And secondly, that card is private medical information by Oklahoma law. Our Oklahoma lawmakers, law enforcement, all of our government officials have to treat it just like HEPA-regulated medical information. So, no, you don't have a problem here. What you have a problem with is people trying to spread disinformation deliberately just because of their own sour grapes. They lost the election.
So you're saying get your medical marijuana license first, then get your gun?
The other way around.
Get your gun.
If you're going to buy from a federally licensed firearms dealer,
get your gun first.
Get the gun first before you start taking your medicine, and you're fine. Okay? Now, right, because there is nothing in the federal law that says they have a right to come get your guns. Unless you're court adjudicated as, you know, mentally incompetent, you know, someone like that,
right,
where you were insane and they had to put you in, you know, in a psychiatric facility, something like that. So, yeah, really, we don't have a problem. And I'm telling you, my dad, who I've said before, he's actually spent time in a mental health facility, inpatient for several months.
Right.
And that PTSD. He's a Korean War veteran.
Yeah.
I mean, he really had a breakdown in that. The best and most therapeutic thing he ever did, he loved doing, was hunting and fishing. Out in the woods, peace, calm, quiet. Best thing for his PTSD.
Right.
And now these politicians want to take that away from our soldiers who suffered for us and for our freedoms.
Right.
Now we say, no, you don't get Second Amendment.
And it's the nature of the bureaucracy. They never go case by case.
Yeah.
It's a one-size-fits-all utopia. Everybody has to pick the thing. It doesn't matter if my father-in-law, he's in his 90s. He's one of the healthiest guys. He could probably outrun and outswim me. One of the healthiest guys you'd ever want to meet. He's stayed healthy his whole life. If he needed a knee replacement, they tell him, "Oh no, you're too young." Not based on the fact that even if he could have. I mean, it's ridiculous. They don't go by case by case. It also translates to the same issue that we talked about at the beginning with the school. One of the reasons the schools are going to hell in a handbasket is because they're trying to take a one-size-fits-all utopian concept and shove it from the top down across this. We're trying to nationalize public education. And what we know is that Susie, school teacher, knows better what Johnny needs in her classroom than the Washington, D.C.
I got a little story to tell you about, was it Wednesday? I was down at the jail, training cadets. Again, I go down there and train the detention officers on how to care for the mentally ill that are incarcerated in jail.
Right.
Not that this has anything to do with it, but I tried to see Paul Tate while I was there.
Okay.
And so,
good.
I had a little bit of a difficulty with that because the organization I'm with NAMI, National Alliance of Mental Illness, we didn't have our paperwork in line to be considered an agency, which would get a special avenue, way to get in on demand. Several other agents, let's say DHS, is checking on somebody who's a client or something like that.
Gotcha.
Or a mental health worker's got to follow up on somebody like that. Other than that, you pretty much have to be family to visit somebody in the jail. And but I talked to Ron Durbin, who many of you in the medical marijuana advocacy know that he's pretty much our top lawyer in the state. Well, he went to see Paul Tate that day. I did not know he was there. In fact, he said, "Gosh, Dave, I would have made you paralegal on the spot so you could get in with me." Because lawyers get in anytime. Yeah. So he gets in and he talks to him, and Ron is actually going to appeal Paul Tate's criminal charges for outraging public morals.
Really?
Yes. And Ron said, "Look, what he did was despicable. What he did was outrageous. What he did was still protected for First Amendment rights, free speech." And he said, "This is the first time that we know of that somebody's been prosecuted for this, and it hasn't yet been overturned." So he says, this one needs to be overturned. And Durbin's going to do it pro bono for him. He's asking other attorneys to come alongside and help me. He wants to take this all the way to Criminal Court of Appeals. And so let's see what happens there, because the Supreme Court ruled Paul Tate's State Question 808 is free to go get signatures now. Now, Paul's in jail.
Yeah.
He doesn't have any money.
Yeah.
He's a pauper. He's destitute, but it's there. Now, I'm not supporting 808. I don't know anybody who is. But, Paul just says, hey, I want my rights, to take part in the civics process.
Right.
Not only should I not be in jail, I should be free to go get my signatures like I want to. So, this is what's going on right now. And by the way, one of the guys I was training with, he's a new guy today, Wednesday, a former Division I college football coach. And I tell you what, when he steps it up, he and I we're planning right now to do some school assemblies, something like NAMI's had called Ending the Silence, where you get kids and you talk about mental health and how to recognize when you need to get help and how to, take care of it while it's still a small thing.
Right.
And get the right kind of work. So I'm probably going to be doing some things, hopefully by fall, we'll have something in place here. I'll be working with at least one Division I retired college football coach. So
that'll be excellent.
This will be some really good things, and not like I've got lots of spare time on my hands.
No, but your finger's on the pulse of the where the mental illness connects with the policing, and that is nationwide an issue.
It is.
It's what brings us a live PD. It's where those two meet. It's really unfortunate. But you've got your finger on the pulse of that. You're really not just finger on the pulse. You're actually doing efforts to help bridge that gap and fix that problem.
Yeah. Well,
anything else?
I just want to say, my dad is my hero.
Yeah.
He was on tranquilizers my entire childhood because of his PTSD. And the veterans, that's what they did. And as long as you weren't having flashbacks, the VA said, we cured you. Yes, you're a zombie, but hey, you're cured as far as we're concerned. You're a zombie state, that's your problem.
Right.
My dad did not have medical marijuana available. And I'm telling you, what's happening is these veterans with the PTSD, they're getting rid of these big bags of just, hundreds of benzos, which are addictive drug, bennies, they used to call them, street drug. That's what the VA's putting them on, bennies. And they're getting addicted to it. And now these veterans, one guy showed me, he pulled out this little vape pen. He said, this is $50. It's 1 gram of THC in it. He says, when I feel a panic attack coming on, when I'm ramping up, he said, I just inhale 1 breath of this. Within 10 seconds, it brings me down. He says, and then I'm fine, and I get past that panic attack.
Right.
Meanwhile, I'm not taking drugs round the clock as a preventative.
Right.
And now one young guy says, I'm back in college. I'm finishing my degree.
Nice.
I couldn't have done that. So, these are the kinds of success stories we're seeing. I'm not a fan of either 807 or 808. That's these bills for recreational marijuana. These are big tax bills. They are West Coast Democrat funded operations that's just going to raise taxes like crazy on it, and they're really being put before us on the November ballot as a way to get the Democrat constituency out in an optimal amount. Try to keep Kendra Horn in place, and maybe even take out Kevin Hearn up here. That's their next target, is trying to take him out. Mm-hmm. So what I'd say by 20 to 1 of these 11,000 patients that are part of my group, we're saying, 788's working for us. Don't screw it up. Yeah, make it better. There's some ways we can improve on it. But no, we're not ready for the recreational thing. They want the rest of the state to get a little more comfortable and at ease about it, to where, ending prohibition is something we can all look at together, without the fear, the scare tactics, and all of that. And so they're willing to wait a little bit longer, and then maybe get a better bill than the ridiculous state questions that are out there.
Right.
So, that's
anything else tonight?
No, this has been a great night. We're glad you've been a part of it, and we're looking forward next week. You don't want to miss it. Oldham's going to be coming back with a report from the East Coast, and D'Ambroso's just super busy. He started
he's working campaign.
Yes, he is a political consultant. If you're thinking of running, you need somebody, you better get with him quick, because he's filling up. In fact, I think he's hiring already.
Really?
He is doing that well. So we get him when we get him. Proud of that young man. I just think so highly of his ambition. He's so passionate.
Well, brand new kid and everything.
He's got 2 kids under 3 years old, so things are going good. Yeah, you got Tom and me tonight, but I'm telling you.
3D Politics happens every Monday night, no matter how many Davids we've got. I'm Tom E. McKay, your fantastic host. I've got David Van. Next week we'll have David Oldham. Hopefully in the future we'll also have David D'Ambroso. But until then, and next Monday, and don't forget, catch me on Wednesday with Rex Lawhorn.
Yes.
We'll see you next week.
All right.